Imagine going on a spring break trip with your friends. A time for fun and relaxation. And then suddenly one of your friends disappears, without a trace. That's the terrifying reality facing a group of friends who traveled to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic.
It's a nightmare scenario, and in this case, the circumstances surrounding the disappearance are incredibly puzzling.
We're talking about the case of Sudiksha Konanki, a bright, ambitious 20-year-old pre-med student who vanished from a popular beach in the early hours of March 6th. And the only person who claims to know what happened isn't telling the whole story.
It really is a baffling and concerning situation. The details surrounding Sudiksha's disappearance are just so unclear. There are conflicting accounts, lingering questions, and a growing sense that something isn't right.
And that's why we're doing this deep dive. We'll look at the known facts, examine those inconsistencies, and talk about what's being done to find her.
And what's really striking is the sheer scale of this investigation. We're not just talking about local authorities. This case has gotten the attention of the FBI, Interpol, even the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office in Virginia, where Sudiksha's family lives.
Let's start by introducing you to Sudiksha. She was a dual Indian-U.S. citizen, a top student at the University of Pittsburgh, and had dreams of becoming a surgeon. She seemed to have it all: a promising future, a loving family, and a close group of friends.
And it was with these friends that Sudiksha decided to spend her spring break in Punta Cana. They were staying at the Republica Hotel, a popular all-inclusive resort, known for its beautiful beaches and lively atmosphere.
It was supposed to be a week of fun in the sun, a chance to unwind before heading back to the demands of college life. But on the night of March 5th, something went terribly wrong.
The group had been out at one of the hotel bars. And in the early morning hours, around 4:15 a.m., surveillance footage shows them heading towards the beach with two men they had met at the resort.
Now, it's important to note that this was not unusual behavior for spring breakers. People often meet and socialize with others while on vacation. But in this case, the decision to go to the beach with these men would have tragic consequences.
The group consisted of Sudiksha, 5 of her female friends, and the 2 men. They were all captured on the hotel's surveillance cameras, heading out towards the beach.
About 40 minutes later, at approximately 4:50 a.m., the surveillance footage shows 5 of the women returning to the hotel, but Sudiksha is not with them. Only one of the men returned with them.
This means that Sudiksha was left alone on the beach with the other man, a 22-year-old named Joshua Rebe. He becomes a central figure in this mystery because he's the last known person to have seen Sudiksha alive.
And it's his account of what happened that night that has raised so many questions and fueled so much speculation.
Reba's story has changed multiple times since he first spoke to authorities. Initially, he claimed that he and Sudiksha were swept out to sea by a large wave.
He said he managed to rescue her and bring her back to shore. But then, while he was lying on the beach, vomiting from swallowing seawater, she disappeared.
Later, he changed his story, saying that Sudiksha had left to gather her belongings, which had been scattered by the waves, and that's when he lost sight of her.
But there are several inconsistencies in Reba's accounts. First, why would Sudiksha leave her belongings behind if she was just going to gather them after being swept out to sea?
And even more troubling, why didn't Reba immediately report her missing? To hotel staff or authorities? He claims he searched for her for a while, but his actions don't seem to match the urgency of the situation.
It wasn't until much later that day, around 4 p.m., that Sudiksha's friends reported her missing to the hotel staff. That's almost 12 hours after they were last seen with her on the beach.
That delay is significant, and it raises questions about what happened during those intervening hours. Did her friends try to find her themselves before contacting the authorities? Did they assume she was safe somewhere else?
And adding to the mystery, when Sudiksha's hotel room was searched, her phone and wallet were found undisturbed. This is particularly strange because, according to her family and friends, she always kept those items with her.
It's as if she didn't plan to be gone for long, which makes her sudden disappearance even more baffling.
So we have a young woman who vanishes without a trace, a man who was last seen with her, and who's given conflicting accounts of what happened, and a group of friends who waited hours before reporting her missing.
It's a puzzle with a lot of missing pieces, and the lack of answers has fueled a whirlwind of speculation and theories.
Authorities initially focused on the possibility of accidental drowning. Reba's initial account of being swept out to sea lent credence to this theory, and the fact that 4 other tourists had drowned in the same area just a few months earlier seemed to support it.
However, there are several factors that cast doubt on the drowning theory. Firstly, Sudiksha was a strong swimmer, and her family insists she wouldn't have ventured into dangerous waters, especially in the early morning hours.
Secondly, if she had drowned, wouldn't her body have been recovered by now? Despite extensive searches involving divers, boats, and helicopters, there's been no sign of her.
And then there are the inconsistencies in Ribe's story. His changing accounts and his refusal to answer certain questions, citing legal counsel, have made him a person of interest in the investigation.
He hasn't been officially named a suspect, but his behavior has raised a lot of red flags for authorities. They're now looking into other possibilities, including foul play.
The fact that Sudiksha left her belongings behind suggests that she didn't plan to go for a swim. And Ribe's evasiveness and inconsistent story have only deepened the mystery.
Could she have been the victim of a crime? Could someone have taken advantage of her while she was on the beach with Ribe?
These are questions that investigators are now trying to answer. The Dominican Republic, while a popular tourist destination, has its share of crime, including violent crime.
And there have been cases of tourists being targeted for kidnapping or other crimes, so the possibility of foul play cannot be ignored.
Sudiksha's family has been vocal in their belief that there's more to this story than just an accident. They've been urging authorities to investigate the possibility of kidnapping or even human trafficking.
They're desperate for answers, and they're not giving up hope of finding their daughter alive. They've traveled to the Dominican Republic to aid in the search and have been pleading for anyone with information to come forward.
Their determination is heartbreaking and inspiring. They're facing every parent's worst nightmare, and yet they're not letting the uncertainty and fear paralyze them.
This case is a stark reminder that even in paradise, danger can lurk in unexpected places. It's a reminder to be vigilant, to be aware of your surroundings, and to trust your instincts, especially when traveling to unfamiliar destinations.
It's hard to grasp the sheer terror and confusion that must have gripped Sudiksha's friends when they realized she was missing, especially considering the circumstances and the delayed response.
The fact that they waited almost 12 hours to report her disappearance to hotel staff is a troubling detail. It raises a lot of questions about what they were doing during that time and why they didn't act more urgently.
One can only speculate about their reasons for the delay. Perhaps they were initially in denial, hoping that Sudiksha had simply wandered off and would reappear soon.
Or maybe they were afraid to involve the authorities, especially if they had been drinking or engaging in activities that might have been frowned upon by the resort
or local laws. It's also possible that they tried to find her on their own before realizing the gravity of the situation. We know that they were a close group of friends, so it's conceivable that they searched the resort and surrounding areas before contacting the staff.
Whatever their reasons. That delay was critical. Those early hours after Sudiksha's disappearance were crucial for the investigation, and the lack of immediate action may have hindered the search efforts.
It's worth noting that the resort staff's response to the missing person report has also been scrutinized. Some reports suggest that the hotel was slow to react and didn't take the situation seriously enough at first.
There have been allegations that the hotel was more concerned with protecting its reputation than with finding the missing student. These allegations have been fueled by the fact that the resort initially downplayed the incident and didn't cooperate fully with the authorities.
This perceived lack of urgency on the part of the resort has added to the frustration and anger felt by Sudiksha's family and friends. They believe that precious time was wasted in the early stages of the search, time that could have been used to find their daughter.
The Dominican Republic has a thriving tourism industry, and resorts are often reluctant to acknowledge incidents that might tarnish their image or deter potential visitors.
But in this case, the resort's alleged inaction may have had serious consequences. It's impossible to know for sure whether a quicker response would have made a difference, but it's a question that continues to haunt those who are desperate to find Sudiksha.
Turning our attention back to Joshua Ribe, his inconsistent accounts of the night Sudiksha disappeared have placed him firmly at the center of the investigation.
His initial story of being swept out to sea by a wave and rescuing Sudiksha before she vanished while he was vomiting on the beach was dramatic, but it raised several red flags.
For one thing, it seemed improbable that Sudiksha, a strong swimmer, would have been swept away by a current, especially if they were close to the shore.
And even if she had been pulled out by a strong current, why wouldn't Ribe have immediately sought help from the resort staff or lifeguards?
His claim that he searched for her for a while before returning to his room doesn't seem to align with the urgency of the situation. If he genuinely believed that Sudiksha was in danger, why wouldn't he have raised the alarm immediately?
And then there's the fact that he later changed his story, claiming that Sudiksha had told him she was going to gather her belongings. And that's when he lost sight of her.
This revised account is even more difficult to believe. Why would Sudiksha, after being swept out to sea, and presumably shaken by the experience, decide to go back into the water to collect her belongings?
And why wouldn't Reeb, who had supposedly just rescued her from a dangerous current, try to stop her from going back into the water?
These inconsistencies and illogical details in Reba's story have led investigators to believe that he may be withholding information, or even actively misleading them.
The fact that he has refused to answer certain questions, citing legal counsel, has only heightened their suspicions.
Reeb's evasiveness is understandable to a certain extent. He's young, he's in a foreign country, and he's facing intense scrutiny from law enforcement.
However, his lack of cooperation is doing little to help find Sudiksha, and it's fueling speculation that he may be involved in her disappearance.
It's important to remember that Reeb has not been charged with any crime, and he is presumed innocent until proven guilty. However, his conflicting accounts and his refusal to provide key information have made him a focal point of the investigation.
Investigators are trying to determine whether his inconsistencies are simply a result of panic, confusion, or a language barrier, or whether they indicate something more sinister.
They're looking into his background, his relationship with Sudiksha, and his actions in the hours and days following her disappearance.
They're also examining his claims about his lifeguard training. Reba stated that he had been trained as a lifeguard, but only for pools, not for open water.
This detail has raised questions about his ability to assess and respond to dangerous situations in the ocean. Even if he was a competent pool lifeguard, his experience may not have equipped him to handle the strong currents and unpredictable conditions of the open sea.
And if he was aware of the potential dangers of the water, why didn't he take more precautions? Or discourage Sudiksha from going swimming?
These are just some of the many questions that investigators are grappling with as they try to piece together the events of that fateful night.
The lack of physical evidence has also hampered the investigation. Despite extensive searches of the ocean, the beach, and the surrounding areas, no trace of Sudiksha has been found.
Divers have scoured the seabed. Sonar equipment has been used to scan the ocean floor, and search dogs have been deployed on land. But so far, the search has yielded no results.
The absence of any physical clues makes it difficult to determine what happened to Sudiksha. If she drowned, her body should have surfaced by now, given the time that has passed, and the warm waters of the Caribbean.
This lack of evidence has fueled speculation that she may have been the victim of foul play. Some theories suggest that she may have been abducted, either from the beach or from another location.
The possibility of human trafficking has also been raised, although there is no concrete evidence to support this theory. The Dominican Republic, like many other tourist destinations, has a problem with human trafficking, and young women are often targeted.
However, it's important to note that there's no indication that Sudiksha was involved in any activities that would have made her a target for traffickers.
She was a bright, ambitious student from a good family, and there's no evidence to suggest that she was engaged in any risky behavior that would have put her at risk.
The possibility of an abduction or other criminal activity cannot be ruled out. But it's important not to jump to conclusions without any substantial evidence.
Investigators are continuing to explore all possibilities, and they are following up on every lead, no matter how small.
They're reviewing surveillance footage from the resort and surrounding areas, interviewing witnesses, and analyzing phone records and social media activity.
They're also working closely with authorities in the United States, including the FBI, to gather information and pursue any leads that may cross international borders.
Search for Sudiksha has become a multinational effort, and the authorities are determined to leave no stone unturned in their quest to find her.
The case has garnered widespread media attention, and the public has been captivated by the mystery surrounding Sudiksha's disappearance.
The story has resonated with people around the world, who are horrified by the thought of a young woman vanishing without a trace while on vacation with her friends.
The case has also highlighted the potential dangers that lurk beneath the surface of paradise. It's a reminder that even in seemingly safe and idyllic destinations, bad things can happen.
And it underscores the importance of being vigilant, taking precautions, and staying informed about potential risks when traveling abroad.
The disappearance of Sudiksha Konanki is a tragedy that has left a family shattered and a community searching for answers. It's a story that has touched the hearts of many, and it's a reminder that even in the age of global connectivity and advanced technology, some mysteries remain unsolved. As we delve deeper into this perplexing case, we need to consider all the angles and potential scenarios that could explain Sudiksha's disappearance. One aspect that has received a lot of attention is the fact that 4 other tourists drowned in the same area just a few months before Sudiksha vanished.
It's a chilling coincidence that's hard to ignore. In January of that same year, 4 tourists lost their lives off the coast of Arena Gorda Beach in Bavaro, not far from where Sudiksha was last seen. The official cause of death was drowning due to strong currents.
The proximity of these incidents to Sudiksha's disappearance raises several questions. Could there be a connection? Are there dangerous currents in this particular area that pose a threat to swimmers?
It's certainly a possibility that investigators have been exploring. The ocean can be unpredictable, and even experienced swimmers can be caught off guard by sudden changes in currents or unexpected riptides.
Some experts have pointed out that the beaches in this region of the Dominican Republic are known for their strong undertows and shifting sandbars, which can create hazardous conditions for swimmers.
However, it's important to note that there were no official warnings about dangerous currents on the day Sudiksha disappeared. And while some witnesses have reported seeing red flags on the beach that day, indicating caution, this information hasn't been officially confirmed.
So the question remains, if there were indeed dangerous currents in the area, why didn't Reeb, who claimed to have some lifeguard training, take more precautions, or warn Sudiksha about the potential risks?
His lack of foresight, if indeed he was aware of the potential dangers, is baffling. One would expect someone with even basic water safety knowledge to be more cautious in such a situation.
It's also worth noting that the other tourists who drowned earlier that year were swimming in a different location, although not far from where Sudiksha was last seen. So while it's possible that both incidents were caused by dangerous currents, it's also possible that they were unrelated.
Investigators are looking into the possibility of a connection, but so far, no concrete evidence has emerged to support that theory.
Another aspect of the case that has fueled speculation is the potential role of the resort in Sudiksha's disappearance. As we mentioned earlier, there have been allegations that the resort was slow to react to her disappearance and may have even tried to downplay the incident to protect its reputation.
These allegations, while serious, haven't been substantiated. However, the resort's handling of the situation has certainly raised eyebrows.
The resort has maintained that it cooperated fully with the authorities and did everything in its power to assist in the search for Sudiksha. However, some witnesses have claimed that the resort's initial response was lackluster and that it took several hours for them to take the matter seriously.
The resort's security footage has also been a source of contention. While the footage shows Sudiksha and her group heading to the beach, it doesn't capture what happened after they left the hotel's immediate vicinity.
This has led to calls for the resort to release all of its security footage, including any footage from cameras that may have captured activity on the beach or in the surrounding areas.
The resort has so far resisted these calls, citing privacy concerns and the ongoing investigation. However, the lack of transparency has only fueled suspicion and distrust among those who are desperate for answers.
It's understandable that the resort would want to protect its reputation. But in a case like this, where a young woman's life is at stake, transparency and cooperation should be paramount.
The resort has a moral obligation to do everything in its power to assist in the investigation and to help bring Sudiksha home.
The impact of Sudiksha's disappearance on her family and friends has been devastating. Her parents, who live in Virginia, have traveled to the Dominican Republic to aid in the search and to keep their daughter's case in the public eye.
They've been tireless in their efforts to find Sudiksha, organizing vigils, giving interviews, and pleading for anyone with information to come forward.
Their strength and resilience in the face of such unimaginable grief is truly remarkable.
Sudiksha's friends have also been deeply affected by her disappearance. They've been grappling with guilt, wondering if they could have done anything differently to prevent this tragedy.
They've been sharing their memories of Sudiksha on social media, keeping her spirit alive, and hoping that their posts might reach someone who has information about her whereabouts.
The support from their community has been overwhelming. Friends, family, and even strangers have rallied around them, offering comfort, assistance, and hope.
The case has also garnered international attention, with people from all over the world expressing their concern and sending messages of support.
The outpouring of sympathy is a testament to the power of human connection and the universal desire to help those who are suffering.
The mystery of Sudiksha Konanki's disappearance remains unsolved, despite extensive searches, numerous interviews, and countless hours of investigation. Her whereabouts are still unknown.
The lack of answers has been agonizing for her loved ones, who are left to grapple with a range of emotions, from hope to despair.
The case has also raised questions about the safety of tourists in popular destinations and the responsibilities of resorts to protect their guests.
It's a reminder that even in paradise, danger can lurk in unexpected places, and that vigilance, awareness, and common sense are essential when traveling abroad.
As we conclude this deep dive into the perplexing case of Sudiksha Konanki, we're left with a profound sense of sadness and a lingering question. What really happened to this bright, ambitious young woman?
We can only hope that one day the truth will be revealed, and that Sudiksha's family will finally find the answers they so desperately seek.
For continued access to our insightful discussions,
Kindly subscribe and select the notification option.